How's everybody doing this afternoon? It's finally stopped raining here. I've been out here since it's finally wet enough that I can pull some step-in posts. I've been expanding pig paddocks, or reconfiguring is more the better term, I guess. But this morning started out kind of rough. It's raining, so and we're calling for rain most of the day. So I just decided I was going to stay inside, do inside stuff. Well, Rhonda had an early dentist appointment, and she came back. She said, "You got pigs out." I was like, "What? Which ones?" "Big pigs." "Well, what do you mean big pigs? Is it like deucing them?" "No, it's like the middle pen, like the Stooges." Yeah, I think it's them." Well, yes and no. As you can see, that's Buddy Love over there, and this is not his pen. He's over there trying to woo Ruby. But he was out, Well Done was out, and the Three Stooges was out this morning. So I spent about an hour, excuse me, getting Well Done back where she belonged, and the Three Stooges back in their pen. Oh, those I am looking forward to them going to freezer camp next month. I got 4 of them, and they're all 4 in the same pen, and I actually planned that. So, but for now, of course, we got Deuce over there. He's not real big on the idea of Buddy Love being in there with his girls, so. But anyway, maybe when the #1 farmhand gets home from school, we might see about doing something about that. And how these guys had gotten out, Well Done and Buddy Love, they had rooted that post up out of the ground and covered the fence up with mud. And the Stooges had done something similar. So it's always something with pigs. But that's, that's part of the pig game. He's down there. She's laying down. She don't want no part of him. So anyway, got everybody inside a pen anyway. And I stayed in the house and done stuff until the rain stopped. The wind's still blowing. It's like 51 degrees here, and feels like it's 47, they say. Anyway, it was an eventful morning, to say the least. I just brought the feed trailer out here. I left it up in the driveway. I'd left it up in the driveway because it was raining when I got home with it yesterday. I'd already fed the pigs anyway, so I was soaking wet and cold. So I just decided it could stay in the driveway until today when it quit raining. But for a while I didn't think it was going to quit raining there. It just seemed to go on and on and on. But anyway, it is quitting now. Here comes the #1 farmhand's ride up the road, the school bus. So I'm going to stop this for a minute. Alrighty. Sitting in the truck. I'm not going anywhere. Just, It's a little cool outside. I'm feeling real great. Uh, well, yeah, we got some rain today and yesterday. Rain gauge said it's like 2.5 inches. That's much needed. Made everything muddy, but that's all right. We dealt with the mud before, so it's not a big problem. Uh, I have learned something. I'm going when I build pig shelters, I'm gonna have to put a floor in them. Just gonna have to do it whether I want to or not. Uh, for one thing, it just gets the pigs up out of the mud. You know, in the summertime, the mud's not a big deal, but it's coming winter time, and I got to get them up out of the mud. I think that'll help me a lot. Okay, well, yeah. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I had some excitement this morning. I had pigs out all over the place, it seemed. It took me a bit to get them in. It's part of the game, you know. Just it's frustrating, but you know it's to be expected. They had rooted mud over the fence and you know shorted it out and covered it up, and so they got out. Pigs are pretty smart animals, except when it comes to getting back in. And they don't like to get back in, especially where they got out at. All right, so yeah, right now everything's pretty calm. Everything's been fed, watered. So we still have Buddy in the wrong pen. Uh, just gonna leave him there. Him and Deuce aren't fighting. I think he stays away from Deuce. So, like I said, I think we're just gonna leave him in there for a day or two. We've got to get a farrowing pen built here in the next few weeks for Well Done, and then I need to get at least one more done. I think that's one of those things that will help us too. But it's craziness going on in the world. Every day it just seems to get bleaker. Just I'm hearing from several sources 25 days of diesel fuel left in the United States. Just like, how do we get there? I mean, really, this is supposedly being reported by the government, our government. Just, how do we get there? You know, and why did we get there? There's nothing there that I can wrap my head around that makes sense. But that's just it's crazy. This country runs on diesel fuel. I mean, most of your trains now are electric, but there's a little catch there. They have electric generators that run the electric motors, but those generators run on diesel fuel. You know, evidently it's more efficient. I don't know, but it's so they're still, you know, your freight trains are still ran on diesel fuel. You know, all of our food comes on a truck. Most tractors, even that little tractor I got, the little 27 horse Kubota that I have, it takes diesel fuel. I mean, It's crazy. This country runs on diesel fuel. I mean, my neighbors that farm around me that have the big tractors, diesel. The trucks they haul the grain on are usually diesel powered. Uh, what what are the powers that be thinking that they let us get out of diesel fuel? I think it's a combination of things, really. One, and like I said, this is opinion. This is my personal opinion. One, they're just out of touch. They don't have a clue how things work. They they're from white collar families, wealthy families, business families, and even being from a business family though that doesn't make sense either. But they don't know, and most of them. I mean, our current president is, his working life has been spent in the government as an elected official. He doesn't have a clue, and the people advising him don't have a clue. We can't just. Okay, that brings up number two. It's this push to switch to the green fuel, or you know what I mean. the environmentalist, and I don't even think it's environmentalist. It's these people that, like I said, are out of touch, but think that we can just flip a switch and shut off the oil industry and switch over to electric. I mean, they don't have the electric car figured out yet. They don't have an electric pickup truck that can pull 1,000 pounds 100 miles. It still takes hours to fully recharge them. An electric car is great for scooting around town, but we're not to the point yet where we can scale it up to the big commercial vehicles. But anyway, the point is, you can't just make that switch now. You can't just snap your fingers and say, boom, we're going to switch to renewable electrical sources. I'm sorry, the technology's just not there. Someday it may be there, and it probably will be there, but not today. I've I'm going to go ahead and say it, I guess. I've said it, and I've said it many times. Human beings aren't going to be able to kill the planet. We may be able to make it bad enough it kills us, but it heals itself. If you don't believe that, look at pictures of abandoned factories in Detroit, the big automotive plants. Nature's taken back over. Even look at Chernobyl, one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. Nature's taken over. Nature's healing itself. The planet will heal itself, unless we just actually blow it to pieces. I don't think we have that capability yet. So, I get back to this. These people are inept. Trust me, this isn't hard to figure out, this stuff. I'm just an old fat pig farmer that barely graduated high school. And, I can figure this out. I'm recording this on my phone like I always do. And all of the knowledge in the world I can access to this phone just about. And we don't. We don't educate ourselves. I mean, we don't try to learn anything new. We don't try to better ourselves. We entertain ourselves. We have, we're at a point in history that we have the capability to learn anything we want to learn, but we won't do it. And I'm guilty too. I don't always, I waste a lot of time on the internet. Um, so it's, like I said, I don't understand it. I do understand it, but I don't. I mean, I understand it's preferable to be entertained to being educated. But the thing is, you don't have to learn everything in the world. Just learn some stuff that's interesting. Well, no, we need to learn history. I mean, Rhonda and I was talking. I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, it was Sunday, and she had been looking out the window, or maybe she'd gone. I don't remember exactly where she was, but she could see the dust just blowing because it's hot and dry this weekend. And she said, I'm afraid we're headed for another dust bowl. I said, well, yeah, could be. I don't know how many people watching this actually been out in the country. And you see these lines of trees between fields, farm fields. Now, there's a reason for those. If you take a look in our area anyway, a lot of those are what I was raised calling hedge trees. And some folks call them Osage orange. They have these big yellow orange balls that they grow. And, squirrels love them. Even the deer like them. Some probably, all kinds of wild game. But they put those in back. Some of those serve two different purposes. Back in the day, people didn't have money to go buy fences, go buy T-posts, and I don't know when the T-post was invented, but they couldn't get T-posts, and they couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford wire, so they would get these hedge trees, these Osage orange trees, and they would plant them really close together, and go as they grew. They would weave those limbs in together, and the cows couldn't get out. Pigs probably did, but the cows couldn't get through them. They used them for fencing, and that's one thing they did. And another was, and they did this with other types of trees, they plant them, we see them between fields, farm fields. There's a good possibility they were put there for a windbreak, to slow that wind down just a little bit, so they didn't blow their topsoil away, which was what created the Dust Bowl. All these farmers out in Kansas and eastern Colorado, maybe some of Oklahoma, they grew wheat, and it was such a money-making crop that they just cleared, miles and miles, took all the trees off, planted wheat, and it bit them in the butt in two different ways. Back then, they plowed and disked, then planted. Well, when you disc those fields up, it breaks that dirt down real fine, and it blows pretty easy. And then the price of wheat dropped out once the Depression hit. So all of their topsoil blew away. They couldn't make any money, along with the bad lending practices and the bad borrowing practices and the overspending, and you get the picture. And if you think about that, it's what we're doing now. I mean, not so much on the farming side of it, although we are seeing in this area a lot of people taking those fence rows out that we call them that slow that wind down. But we're moving back to the bigger and bigger farms, you know, because one, and I've mentioned all this stuff before, but it's hard to break into farming on a commercial level. Now, what I do is no big deal. I mean, I make a little money from it, but it's not. I'm not. I'm not gonna get rich, raising pigs. But in order to break in on a commercial scale on a row crop farm, I mean, it takes a lot of money up front. You got to buy your land or lease your land. You got to find somebody. If you are going to lease, then you got to find somebody willing to lease to you. You've got to have your equipment, your tractors, your planters, and then you've got to, you either have to buy diesel fuel or you have to buy herbicides and insecticides. With the diesel, you're not spraying it, but there's a guy that owns the property behind me back here. Him and his sons are certified organic. They grow organic corn and soybeans. And he told me that he can make 3 times the money, but it's twice the work. And he didn't have his fields sprayed, so he's got to take his tractor, which runs on diesel, and it takes time. And he got to go up there, and he's got to use an implement to clean in between the rows so the weeds don't take over. And he's got to do that a couple of times during that crop's life. And and he's had to put an irrigation system in back here because it's been so dry the last few years. That costs money. So it's hard to get into farming if you don't have a family generational farm. Then man, it's hard to get the land, to get the equipment. You got to do the upkeep on the equipment. Tractors are expensive. I mean, I looked at a John Deere. Well, it was a 100-horse tractor. I didn't look at it in person. It's too big for me anyway. But I kind of like to look at these things just so I know. And it's a 100-horse tractor, John Deere. It was like a 70-something model, I believe. Had a loader bucket on it, and they still wanted $30,000 for my 40-year-old piece of equipment. Now it's been taken care of and all that, but still, and there's other costs. Guy I substitute drive for, his barn burnt down, or one of his barns. He lost his truck. He feeds his cattle in, a tractor, and just tons of hand tools and small electrical tools. That it's gone, and he didn't get enough insurance money to replace all that. I don't know what he got. It's none of my business, but I guarantee you that he can't replace everything he had for what the insurance company paid him. And, and he doesn't row crop. He just raises cattle. So, and raising cattle is expensive. That's a quick story. I worked with a guy that was trying to break into the cattle business. He went and bought him some heifers and a few steers, and he's going to sell the steers and then have the heifers bred, and you know how that works. One of his steers just came up missing. He don't know what happened to it. It was from the time it came up missing until he left that job was like 3 or 4 months, and he hadn't found the cow yet. So the steer, it's not officially a cow. Cow's a female that's had a calf. Anyway, for you sticklers. But it's a tough business too. I mean, like this year, if you weren't irrigating, you lost money. And even if you were irrigating, you may not have made that much. That cut into your profits. So, I mean, it's a tough business. And it runs on diesel fuel. Yes, I'm finally bringing it back. Diesel fuel. Diesel fuel runs this country. I don't know. We're in trouble. If I can see it, everybody should be seeing it. 25 days of diesel fuel. Now, I'm hoping that the refineries are making a little more diesel fuel and getting more back into the system. But it doesn't look good. If we don't have enough diesel fuel to run this country, we're dead. I mean, diesel. This country runs on diesel. I don't know how many times I've said it in this video, but it's true. So I'm gonna wind this video up here. Wasn't sure what I was going to talk about when I started it, but I did want to mention diesel fuel, and I hope it wasn't too hard to follow my thought process. But anyway, so let's look out for each other. Let's help each other when we can. However you can. I mean, go help your neighbor mow their yard. Go, actually help people, whatever. And let's pray. That's where we're at, people. We have to be praying. So, as they say, buckle up. It could get bad. So before I get headed off down another rabbit trail, I'm going to get off of here. I'll catch y'all later.